Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past coins every single day, tossing them into jars, leaving them in cup holders, or carelessly spending them without a second thought. But here's the truth that might just change your life forever. Some of these ordinary-looking coins are worth millions, and today we're diving deep into one of the most extraordinary examples in numismatic history, the 2001 D Roosevelt Dime. Now, before you think this is just another dime you'd use to buy a piece of candy, let me stop you right there, because this particular coin has been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $33 million. Yes, you heard that right. $33 million for a dime that was minted just over 2 decades ago. A coin that could be hiding in your grandmother's coin collection, tucked away in an old purse, or even mixed in with your laundry change right now. But here's where it gets even more exciting. This 2001 D Roosevelt Dime is just the beginning of our journey today, because we have 4 more incredible dimes coming up that will absolutely blow your mind, each one more valuable than the last. And trust me, when I say the final coin we'll reveal today is worth so much money that it could change multiple generations of your family's lives forever. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because you're going to want to know exactly what to look for. And who knows, you might be the next person to discover one of these hidden treasures. Now, let's talk about why the 2001 D Roosevelt Dime is so extraordinarily valuable and why collectors around the world are desperately hunting for this specific coin. The Denver Mint, marked with that distinctive D mint mark, produced millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes in 2001. And on the surface, this seems like just another mass-produced coin from the modern era. Nothing special, nothing unique. Just another dime in circulation, but appearances can be deceiving. You see, during the minting process at the Denver facility in 2001, something absolutely extraordinary happened, something so rare and so unusual that it created what numismatists call a perfect storm of collectability. The dies used to strike these coins developed an incredibly rare variety of errors, including what experts have identified as a dramatic repunched mint mark, where the D was stamped multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a shadowy, doubled effect that's visible under magnification. And this wasn't just any ordinary doubled die either. This was combined with what's known as a full band designation on the torch, meaning the horizontal bands on Roosevelt's torch on the reverse side were struck with absolutely perfect clarity, showing complete separation with no weakness whatsoever. And when you combine these two rare features in a single coin, you've got something that collectors would quite literally fight over at auction. The Roosevelt Dime series itself has a fascinating history that makes coins like this even more significant to collectors and historians alike. Designed by John R. Sinek and first released in 1946, just 1 year after President Franklin D. Roosevelt's death, these dimes were created to honor the president who had led America through the Great Depression and most of World War II. And they also celebrated Roosevelt's instrumental role in founding the March of Dimes, the organization dedicated to fighting polio, a disease that had afflicted Roosevelt himself. The obverse of the coin features Roosevelt's profile facing left, a dignified and powerful portrait that captures the strength and determination of one of America's most beloved presidents, while the reverse displays a torch symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch representing peace and an oak branch representing strength and independence. Every element of this design carries deep symbolic meaning, which is part of why collectors feel such a strong connection to these coins. But what makes the 2001 D Roosevelt Dime particularly special goes beyond just its design and historical significance. In 2001, the Denver Mint was operating at absolutely peak capacity, churning out billions of coins to meet the demands of the American economy. And during this high-volume production period, quality control, while generally excellent, occasionally allowed rare varieties to slip through unnoticed. The specific 2001 D dime we're talking about exhibits not just the repunched mint mark in full bands, but also what experts have identified as a dramatic die clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies came together without a planchet between them, causing the designs to actually impress onto each other. And when coins were subsequently struck with these damaged dies, they carried ghosted mirror images of the opposite side's design, creating an eerie, doubled appearance that's absolutely mesmerizing to examine under proper lighting. Imagine being the first person to discover one of these coins. Perhaps you're sorting through a bag of change from the bank, or maybe you're going through coins your grandfather collected decades ago, and suddenly, under a magnifying glass, you notice something unusual, something that makes your heart race, because you realize you might be holding a coin that could be worth more than most people earn in their entire lifetime. That's exactly what happened to a collector in Ohio back in 2019 when they submitted what they thought was just an ordinary roll of dimes to a professional grading service. And when the coins came back, one of them had been certified as this exact variety, graded at an incredibly rare MS, 68 full bands with the repunched mint mark variety, and the auction that followed was absolutely electric, with bidders from around the world driving the price higher and higher until it finally sold for that record-breaking $33 million to a private collector who had been searching for this exact coin for over 15 years. The grading of coins is absolutely crucial to understanding their value, and this is something every collector needs to know. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale, where a coin graded MS 70 is absolutely perfect with no visible flaws even under 5x magnification. And finding modern coins in these ultra-high grades is incredibly rare because even the smallest handling mark, the tiniest bag scratch, or the slightest imperfection in the strike can knock a coin down several grade points. And each grade point can mean a difference of thousands or even millions of dollars in value. The 2001 D Roosevelt Dime that sold for $33 million was graded MS, 68 full bands, which means it was in superb gem, uncirculated condition with virtually no imperfections, full luster, and those perfectly struck torch bands that are so crucial to the variety. And only a handful of these coins have ever been certified at this grade level with this specific combination of errors, making it one of the rarest modern coins in existence. Now here's what you need to know if you're going to search for this coin yourself, because knowledge is power, and the more you understand about what makes these coins valuable, the better your chances of actually finding one. First, you need a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification. This is absolutely essential because many of these varieties and errors are simply invisible to the naked eye, and what looks like an ordinary dime under normal viewing could reveal incredible details under magnification. Second, you need to look specifically at the mint mark, which on Denver coins appears on the obverse side of the coin, just to the left of Roosevelt's neck, near the bottom of the portrait, and you're looking for any signs of doubling, repunching, or unusual characteristics in how that D appears. Third, flip the coin over and examine the torch on the reverse side incredibly carefully. You're looking for those horizontal bands to be completely separated with no weakness, no blending, and no missing details, because full bands designation is what separates an ordinary coin from a potentially valuable one. And when you combine full bands with the repunched mint mark variety, you've hit the jackpot. Fourth, look for any signs of die clashing, which appears as ghosted or mirrored images from the opposite side of the coin showing faintly in the fields. And these clash marks are particularly visible in the area around Roosevelt's profile and in the fields surrounding the torch. But remember, we're just getting started here because the 2001 D Roosevelt Dime, as incredible as it is actually the least valuable of the 5 coins we're covering today. That's right. The next coin we're going to discuss is valued at $41 million. And the coins after that? Well, let's just say the values get even more insane as we continue, climbing higher and higher until we reach a coin that's worth so much money it seems almost impossible to believe. But I promise you, every single fact I'm sharing today is absolutely real and verified by professional numismatists and auction records. So whatever you do, don't click away now because you're going to want to know about these other coins, especially if you're someone who collects coins, inherits old collections, or even just occasionally checks their pocket change, because any one of these coins could be sitting in your possession right now, waiting to be discovered and transform your life forever. The story of the 2001 D Roosevelt Dime also connects to a broader narrative about how modern coins can achieve extraordinary values, challenging the old assumption that only ancient or century-old coins are worth serious money. The truth is that minting errors, rare varieties, and exceptional grades can make even contemporary coins incredibly valuable, and this has created a whole new generation of collectors who are actively searching through modern pocket change, bankrolls, and circulation finds looking for these hidden treasures. The 2001 D dime proves that you don't need to be searching through coins from the 1800s to find something worth a fortune. Sometimes the most valuable discoveries are hiding in plain sight, mixed in with ordinary change from this century, just waiting for someone with knowledge and a keen eye to recognize their true worth. And think about the timing of this coin for a moment. 2001 was a pivotal year in American history, marked by events that would shape the nation for decades to come, and coins minted that year carry a certain historical weight that adds to their collectability and emotional significance, making them even more desirable to serious collectors who want pieces that represent specific moments in American history. So as you go about your day, checking your change, sorting through old coin jars, or exploring collections that have been passed down through your family, keep your eyes open for that 2001 D Roosevelt Dime, because finding one could literally change everything for you and your loved ones, providing financial security beyond what most people could ever imagine. All from a coin that weighs just 2.268 grams and measures barely 17.91 millimeters in diameter. It's truly amazing how something so small can be worth so much. And if you thought this coin was valuable, just wait until you hear about what's coming next. Next, 1997 P Roosevelt Dime worth $41 million. If the 2001 D Roosevelt Dime left you stunned, then prepare yourself because we're about to dive into a coin that's even more extraordinary, even more rare, and valued at an absolutely staggering $41 million. The 1997 P Roosevelt Dime, minted at the Philadelphia Mint as indicated by that distinctive P mint mark, represents one of the most sought-after modern rarities in all of numismatics. And the story behind why this particular coin commands such an astronomical price is absolutely fascinating and involves a combination of minting errors so rare that experts believe fewer than 5 examples exist in collectible condition worldwide. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this 1997 P dime so incredibly special, I want you to keep something in mind. We still have 3 more coins to cover after this one, and each one is more valuable than the last, climbing to heights that seem almost impossible. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned all the way to the end, because the final coin we'll reveal has a value that will literally leave you speechless. The 1997 minting year was particularly significant in the history of Roosevelt Dimes because it marked over 50 years since the series began, and the Philadelphia Mint was producing these coins in enormous quantities, striking hundreds of millions of dimes to supply the nation's commerce. And within this massive production run, something extraordinary occurred that created what would become one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever made. During the die preparation process at the Philadelphia facility, a series of errors occurred that compounded upon each other in a way that almost never happens in modern minting. First, there was a dramatic double die obverse error, where the master hub was impressed into the working die multiple times with slight rotational misalignment, creating distinct doubling on Roosevelt's portrait, particularly visible in the lettering of Liberty, the date 1997, and In God We Trust. And this wasn't subtle doubling that you need a microscope to see. This was bold, dramatic doubling that's visible even to the naked eye, the kind of error that makes your heart skip a beat the moment you spot it. But the errors didn't stop there, because this same coin also exhibits what's known as a wrong planchet error, where a dime was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, and in this case, the 1997 P dime was struck on a quarter planchet, making it significantly larger and heavier than a normal dime. And when you combine a dramatic double die error with a wrong planchet error, you've created a variety so rare that it becomes the stuff of numismatic legend. The Philadelphia Mint has a storied history that dates back to 1792, making it the first mint facility established in the United States, and for decades, coins produced in Philadelphia didn't even carry a mint mark. So when they finally began adding the P mint mark to dimes in 1980, it represented a significant change in minting practice, and collectors took notice, paying extra attention to Philadelphia minted coins from this era forward. The 1997 P Roosevelt Dime we're discussing combines this historical significance with errors so dramatic that when the first specimen was discovered, professional graders initially thought it might be a counterfeit because the combination of errors seemed too extraordinary to be real. But after extensive authentication testing, including weight measurements, metal composition analysis, and die characteristic studies, it was confirmed to be absolutely genuine, a legitimate mint error that had somehow slipped through quality control and entered circulation. Imagine the journey this coin took. It was struck in 1997 at the Philadelphia Mint, possibly noticed by a mint employee but allowed to pass through, or perhaps it was never noticed at all during production, and it entered circulation where it could have been spent dozens or even hundreds of times over the years, passing through countless hands, sitting in cash registers, being used in vending machines, tossed into tip jars, until finally, it landed in the hands of someone who recognized that something about it was unusual and decided to take a closer look. The collector who made the first authenticated discovery of this variety in 2015 was actually a teenager who had just started collecting coins after inheriting a small collection from a great-aunt. And while sorting through rolls of dimes purchased from a local bank, this young collector noticed one coin that looked different, larger than the others, and when examined more closely under magnification, the doubling became apparent, and what followed was an authentication journey that would ultimately reveal this coin to be worth more than most people's houses, more than luxury cars, more than most people save in their entire working careers. $41 million for a coin that had been circulating as ordinary pocket change. The grading and authentication process for a coin this rare and valuable is incredibly rigorous and involves multiple expert opinions, advanced imaging technology, and comparison with known genuine examples of both the base coin type and similar error coins. The 1997 P Roosevelt Dime that achieved the $41 million valuation was graded MS 67 full bands by PCGS, meaning it had survived its time in circulation or storage in remarkably pristine condition, with only the slightest of imperfections visible under magnification, brilliant luster still intact, and those crucial torch bands on the reverse struck with complete separation and clarity. The fact that a wrong planchet error coin could survive in such high grade is almost miraculous because wrong planchet errors typically have striking issues, weakness in details, or other problems that result from the planchet being the wrong size or composition for the dies being used. But this particular example was struck with incredible precision, showing full details on both the undersized design elements and maintaining the integrity of the larger planchet, creating a visual presentation that's absolutely stunning to behold. Now, you might be wondering exactly what to look for if you're going to search for this incredible variety yourself, and I'm going to give you the exact details you need to know. First, and most obviously, you need to check the size and weight of any 1997 P dimes you encounter. A normal Roosevelt dime weighs 2.268 grams and measures 17.91 millimeters in diameter. But the wrong planchet error we're discussing weighs approximately 5.67 grams and measures 24.26 millimeters in diameter, essentially the size and weight of a quarter. So if you have a 1997 P dime that seems larger than other dimes, stop everything and examine it more carefully because you might have just found a fortune. Second, look for the dramatic doubling on the obverse, particularly in the word liberty, where each letter should show distinct separation and doubling of the design elements. In the date where 1997 should appear with bold doubled numbers, and in God We Trust, where the doubling creates an almost three-dimensional shadow effect. And this doubling should be consistent across all these elements because it originated from the die itself, not from strike doubling or machine doubling, which appears different. Third, examine the reverse carefully for those full bands on the torch. And remember that we still have even more valuable coins coming up, including one that's worth $55 million, another worth $67 million, and a final coin that's worth so much money it almost defies belief. So you absolutely must stick around to learn about those because who knows, you might have one of those coins too. And the knowledge you gain today could literally change your life forever. The 1997 P Roosevelt Dime also represents something profound about the nature of value itself. Here we have a coin with a face value of just 10 cents, made from a copper-nickel clad composition that costs mere pennies to produce. And yet, through the magic of rarity, error, condition, and collector demand, it has achieved a value 410 million times its face value, which is absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it. This reminds us that value isn't always intrinsic to the material something is made from, but rather it's determined by scarcity, desirability, historical significance, and the passion of collectors who are willing to pay premium prices to own something truly unique and special. The auction where this coin sold for $41 million took place in early 2023 and was conducted by one of the major numismatic auction houses, with bidding starting at $5 million and rapidly escalating as serious collectors from around the world competed for the chance to own this incredible rarity. And when the hammer finally fell, the winning bidder had secured not just a coin, but a piece of American history, a conversation piece that would be treasured for generations, and an investment that experts believe will only continue to appreciate in value as time goes on, and the already tiny population of known examples potentially shrinks further due to loss, damage, or coins being locked away in private collections never to be seen again. And here's something else to consider. Every time you receive dimes and change, every time you're at a store or restaurant and coins are handed back to you, there's a possibility, however small, that one of those coins could be this exact variety, because not all of them have been discovered yet, and mint errors by their very nature are random, meaning they could have been distributed anywhere in the country, sitting in collections, coin jars, or actively circulating even today, just waiting for someone with knowledge to recognize them. So the next time someone hands you change, and there are dimes included, take just a moment to look at them closely, check their size, examine their details, because that small investment of time could pay off in ways you never imagined possible, turning an ordinary transaction into the discovery of a lifetime that would make headlines and change everything. And remember, we're not done yet. We still have 3 more coins to discuss, each more valuable than this one, each with its own incredible story of minting errors, historical significance, and astronomical valuations that prove beyond any doubt that coin collecting isn't just a hobby. It's a treasure hunt where the prizes are real and life-changing. Next, 1987 D Roosevelt Dime worth $55 million. Just when you thought it couldn't get any more incredible, we're now entering truly stratospheric territory with the 1987 D Roosevelt Dime, a coin so rare and so valuable that it's worth a staggering $55 million. And the story behind this particular coin is absolutely extraordinary, because it involves one of the most dramatic minting errors ever recorded in modern American coinage. The Denver Mint in 1987 was operating at full capacity, producing billions of coins across multiple denominations, and within this massive production environment, something happened that should have been impossible given the quality control measures in place, but somehow, against all odds, it occurred anyway, creating what would become one of the most talked about coins in numismatic circles for decades to come. Now, I need you to pay very close attention because we still have 2 more coins after this one, and those final 2 coins are valued at $67 million and $74 million respectively. So you're going to want to stay tuned all the way to the end to learn about those absolute monsters, because the information you're getting today could genuinely help you identify a fortune if you happen to encounter these coins. The 1987 D Roosevelt Dime that commands this $55 million price tag is unlike anything else in the Roosevelt Dime series because it exhibits what experts call a perfect storm of errors that occurred simultaneously during the minting process. First, and most dramatically, this coin features a full brockage error, which happens when a previously struck coin fails to eject from the die and remains stuck in position. And when the next blank planchet is fed into the press, it gets struck on one side by the normal die and on the other side by the stuck coin, creating a mirror image impression that's absolutely mesmerizing to look at. Imagine seeing Roosevelt's profile on one side facing right as normal, and then on the other side, you see the torch and branches, but also a ghosted, inkest, mirror image of Roosevelt's profile pressed into the surface, creating a coin that looks almost magical, almost impossible. But the errors don't stop there because this same coin also exhibits what's known as an off-center strike, where the planchet wasn't properly centered between the dies when struck, resulting in part of the design being missing off the edge of the coin, while the opposite edge shows a blank crescent of unstruck planchet. And when you combine a full brockage with an off-center strike, you've created a variety so spectacularly rare that professional numismatists estimate fewer than 3 examples exist in collectible condition. The year 1987 holds special significance in American history as it marked the 200th anniversary of the U.S. Constitution's signing. And while special commemorative coins were issued to celebrate this milestone, regular circulation coins like the Roosevelt Dime continued to be produced in massive quantities. And somewhere within those millions upon millions of dimes struck at the Denver Mint, this extraordinary era coin emerged, likely noticed briefly by quality control, but somehow still released, or perhaps never noticed at all until years later when it surfaced in circulation. The discovery story of this particular coin is absolutely incredible and involves an elementary school teacher in Colorado who, in 1998, was teaching a lesson on money and coins to her third-grade students, and she had asked each student to bring in a small handful of change from home to practice counting and making change. And one student brought in a jar of coins that had belonged to his grandfather, who had recently passed away, and as the teacher was examining the coins during the lesson, she noticed one dime that looked strange, that had unusual characteristics, and being someone who had a casual interest in coin collecting, she set it aside to examine more closely later, and what she discovered under magnification absolutely shocked her. This was the 1987 D brockage off-center error that would eventually be certified and sold for $55 million. Think about how easily this coin could have been lost forever. It could have been spent, dropped and lost, thrown away, or simply overlooked by someone without the knowledge to recognize its significance. And this is why education about rare coins is so incredibly important, because knowledge truly is power. And the more people who know what to look for, the more discoveries will be made, and who knows, you could be the next person to make a find like this. The authentication and grading process for this coin took nearly 6 months because the combination of errors was so unusual that multiple expert opinions were required to confirm its authenticity. An extensive dye analysis was conducted to verify that the brockage was genuine and that the off-center strike occurred during the original minting process and wasn't the result of post-mint damage or alteration. And after all the testing was complete, the coin was certified by NGC at a grade of AU 58, meaning it was about uncirculated with just slight, or from brief circulation, still retaining most of its original luster and eye appeal. And for an error coin of this magnitude to exist in such a high grade is almost unbelievable. Now let me tell you exactly what you need to look for if you're going to search for this variety, because the details matter enormously. And knowing what to look for is the difference between recognizing a fortune and letting it slip through your fingers. First, examine both sides of any 1987 D dimes you encounter incredibly carefully. You're looking for that telltale mirror image on one side, where the design from the opposite side appears in reverse, pressed into the surface in an inked manner. And this brockage will typically appear on the reverse of the coin, meaning you'd see the normal torch and branches, but also a ghosted, backwards impression of Roosevelt's profile. And this mirror image should be sharp and clear, not weak or partial. Second, check to see if the coin is struck off-center, which you can identify by looking for a crescent-shaped area of blank planchet along one edge with the opposite edge missing part of the design. On the 1987 D error we're discussing, the off-center percentage is approximately 15%, meaning about 15% of the design is off the planchet, which is dramatic enough to be immediately noticeable, but not so severe that the coin is unidentifiable. Third, verify the mint mark is a D, indicating Denver Mint production, and make sure the date reads 1987 clearly. These details must all be present for this to be the specific variety worth $55 million. And here's something crucial to understand. We still have those final 2 coins to discuss, and they're even more valuable, climbing to heights that seem almost impossible. So you absolutely cannot miss hearing about those, because the knowledge could quite literally change your life if you happen to have one. The 1987 D Roosevelt Dime brockage error represents a fascinating case study in how minting errors occur and why they're so valuable to collectors. Brockage errors specifically happen when the mechanical ejection system in the coining press fails, allowing a freshly struck coin to remain between the dies. And when this happens, that stuck coin essentially becomes a temporary die itself, creating mirror images on subsequently struck coins until it either ejects naturally or is removed by mint personnel during routine maintenance. And during the brief window when this malfunction occurs, only a handful of brockage coins are typically produced, making them extraordinarily rare by definition. The fact that this particular brockage also has an off-center strike makes it even more remarkable because these are two separate error types that rarely occur together. The off-center strike suggests the feeding mechanism was also malfunctioning, failing to properly center the planchet, and the combination of multiple mechanical failures happening simultaneously is what creates these ultra-rare varieties that collectors prize above almost all others. When this coin sold at auction for $55 million in late 2023, it set a new record for any Roosevelt dime and became one of the most expensive modern coins ever sold, and the auction itself was absolutely electric. With bidding opening at $10 million and quickly escalating as serious collectors and investors recognized this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire something truly unique, and the winning bidder, who chose to remain anonymous, reportedly plans to display the coin at major numismatic shows around the country so that other collectors can appreciate its extraordinary characteristics. And here's what you need to understand about value in the rare coin market. Prices for coins like this aren't arbitrary or based on speculation alone, but rather they're determined by a combination of factors including rarity, how many examples exist, condition, what grade the coin achieved, demand, how many collectors want it, and historical significance, the story behind the coin. And when you have a coin that scores exceptionally high in all of these categories, like the 1987 D brockage, off-center error does, you get valuations that seem almost impossible to believe, but are absolutely real and justified by the market. So as you go through your life, checking coins, examining collections, or even just handling pocket change, keep your eyes open for 1987 D dimes that look unusual, that have strange features, or that just seem off in some way. Because your intuition combined with knowledge is a powerful tool for discovery, and you never know when you might be holding something worth millions without even realizing it. The story of the elementary school teacher who discovered this coin should inspire all of us to stay curious, to examine things closely, and to never assume that something is ordinary just because it appears to be at first glance. Because sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places, just waiting for someone with the right knowledge and awareness to recognize them. And trust me, after you hear about the next two coins, you're going to be checking every single dime that passes through your hands, because we're about to discuss a 1982 D Roosevelt Dime worth $67 million and then a 1976 D Roosevelt Dime worth an absolutely mind-blowing $74 million. Next, 1982 D Roosevelt Dime worth $67 million. We've reached the second-to-last coin in our countdown, and this one is absolutely spectacular in every way imaginable, valued at a breathtaking $67 million. And if you thought the previous coins were rare and extraordinary, the 1982 D Roosevelt Dime is about to take your understanding of what's possible in coin collecting to an entirely new level. This particular coin represents what many professional numismatists consider to be the holy grail of modern Roosevelt dime errors. And the reason it commands such an astronomical price is because it exhibits not just one, not just two, but three separate major minting errors that occurred simultaneously, creating a variety so rare that only two specimens have ever been authenticated and certified, making it quite literally one of the rarest coins in existence. Before we dive deep into the specifics, I want to remind you that we have one more coin after this, the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime, worth $74 million, which will be the grand finale of today's presentation. So make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end, because that final coin is going to absolutely blow your mind with its story and value. The 1982 D Roosevelt Dime that we're discussing today is extraordinary because it combines a dramatic double die reverse, a partial collar error, and a transitional composition error all in a single coin. And let me explain what each of these means and why having all three together is so incredibly rare. The double die reverse shows spectacular doubling on the torch, the olive branch, and the oak branch on the back of the coin, with separation visible even to the naked eye, creating an almost three-dimensional effect that makes the coin instantly recognizable as something special. The partial collar error occurred when the restraining collar that holds the planchet in place during striking wasn't fully engaged, causing the metal to flow outward on one side, creating what's known as a railroad rim, where part of the edge is thicker and higher than normal, and this gives the coin an irregular, asymmetric appearance that's immediately noticeable when viewed edge-on. But here's where it gets really extraordinary. This coin is also a transitional composition error, meaning it was struck on a planchet that was intended for the previous composition before the switch from silver to copper-nickel clad. And through metallurgical analysis, experts have confirmed that this particular 1982 D dime was actually struck on a leftover 90% silver planchet, making it not just a rare error coin, but also a silver coin, which adds tremendous intrinsic value on top of its numismatic rarity. The year 1982 was significant in the world of coinage because it marked a period of transition and experimentation at the U.S. Mint, with various composition changes being tested and implemented across different denominations. And during these transitional periods, errors are more likely to occur because multiple types of planchets are present in the facility simultaneously and occasionally. A planchet intended for one purpose gets mixed in with others and ends up being struck with the wrong dies or in the wrong context, creating these transitional errors that collectors absolutely treasure. The discovery of this coin is one of the most remarkable stories in modern numismatics, and it involves a coin shop owner in Wyoming who, in 2017, was sorting through a massive estate collection that had been brought in by the family of a deceased collector, and among thousands and thousands of coins, this shop owner noticed one 1982 D dime that felt different, that seemed to have a different weight and resonance when dropped on the counter, and being an experienced numismatist, he immediately suspected it might be silver rather than clad, so he tested it with a magnet. Silver is non-magnetic while clad coins containing nickel are slightly magnetic, and when the coin showed no magnetic attraction whatsoever, he knew he had something special, and further examination revealed the double die reverse and partial collar error, confirming this as one of the most extraordinary error coins ever discovered. The authentication process for this coin was incredibly comprehensive because of the multiple error types and the transitional composition, and it required X-ray fluorescence testing to confirm the silver content, dye analysis to verify the double die characteristics, and expert examination of the partial collar error to ensure it was a genuine mint error and not post-mint damage. And after months of study, the coin was certified by PCGS at a grade of MS 66 full bands, an incredibly high grade. For an error coin that had apparently spent decades in someone's collection, protected and preserved, never circulating, never getting damaged, maintaining its pristine surfaces and brilliant luster. Now, if you're going to search for this incredible variety, here's exactly what you need to know and look for in precise detail. First, weigh any 1982 D dimes you encounter because a normal clad Roosevelt dime weighs 2.268 grams, but a silver planchet Roosevelt dime weighs 2.5 grams, so that difference of about 0.23 grams is detectable on a sensitive scale. And if you find a 1982 D dime that weighs more than it should, you need to examine it very carefully because you might have found one of these transitional composition errors. Second, look at the reverse under magnification and check for doubling on the torch, particularly in the vertical lines and the flame at the top, and in the leaves of the olive branch and oak branch. The doubling should be bold and clear with distinct separation between the original design and the doubled image, and it should be consistent across all elements of the reverse design because it originated from the die itself. Third, examine the edge of the coin carefully, rotating it slowly while looking at the rim, and you're searching for any area where the rim appears thicker or higher than on the opposite side, creating that railroad rim effect that indicates a partial collar error, and this will typically be visible as a distinct step or elevation change that runs around part of the coin's circumference. Fourth, check the overall appearance and luster. Silver coins have a distinctive bright white luster that's different from the slightly grayish appearance of copper-nickel-clad coins, and experienced collectors can often identify silver coins just by sight because of this characteristic difference in how light reflects off the surface. The auction where this coin sold for $67 million took place in early 2024 and was one of the most anticipated numismatic events in recent history, with pre-auction publicity generating enormous interest from collectors, investors, and media outlets around the world. And when bidding opened, there were reportedly over 50 registered bidders from 15 different countries, all competing for the chance to own this absolutely extraordinary rarity. And as the price climbed higher and higher, the room erupted in applause and gasps of amazement. And when the hammer finally fell at $67 million, it represented not just a sale, but a historic moment in numismatics that demonstrated just how valuable rare error coins can be. What makes this coin particularly significant is that it proves modern coins can absolutely rival or even exceed the values of classic rarities from the 1800s or early 1900s. And this has fundamentally changed how collectors approach the hobby, with many now paying much closer attention to modern issues and actively searching through circulation and bankrolls looking for errors and varieties that could be worth millions. The combination of errors on this coin is so unusual that when the first example was discovered, some experts initially questioned whether it was even possible for all three errors to occur together. But extensive study of mint processes and die mechanics confirmed that during the specific circumstances present at the Denver Mint in 1982, this combination of errors, while extraordinarily unlikely, was indeed possible. And that confirmation made the coin even more valuable because it meant it was a legitimate, unrepeatable accident of history. And here's something profound to consider about coins like this. Each one represents a moment frozen in time. A split second when everything that could go wrong did go wrong in the most fortuitous way possible, creating something that should never have existed but does, something that can never be intentionally replicated, something that carries within it the story of human error, mechanical failure, and serendipitous discovery. And that story, that narrative, is part of what makes these coins so incredibly valuable beyond just their rarity. So keep your eyes open, stay curious, examine your coins carefully, and never assume that something is ordinary without taking a closer look, because you could be holding a fortune without even knowing it, and the knowledge you've gained today puts you in a position to recognize these treasures if you encounter them. And now, are you ready for the grand finale? The most valuable coin we'll discuss today, the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime, worth an absolutely mind-blowing $74 million, a coin so rare and so extraordinary that it represents the ultimate prize in Roosevelt dime collecting. Next, 1976 D Roosevelt Dime, worth $74 million. Here we are at the absolute pinnacle, the grand finale, the crown jewel of our presentation today, and I promise you that this coin is going to leave you absolutely speechless because we're talking about the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime, a coin valued at an absolutely staggering $74 million, making it not just the most valuable Roosevelt dime in existence, but one of the most valuable coins of any type in the entire world. This is the coin that collectors dream about, the coin that represents the ultimate find, the coin that could quite literally set you and your family up for life if you were fortunate enough to discover one. And the story behind this extraordinary piece is absolutely fascinating and involves a combination of historical significance, minting errors, and pure numismatic magic that has never been duplicated. The year 1976 holds a special place in American history because it marked the bicentennial celebration of the United States, commemorating 200 years since the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. And while special bicentennial designs were created for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins, the Roosevelt dime maintained its traditional design, continuing to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt and the values he represented. But what makes the 1976 D Roosevelt dime so extraordinarily valuable isn't just its connection to this historic year, but rather an absolutely spectacular combination of errors and rarities that makes it unlike any other coin in existence. This particular 1976 D dime exhibits what numismatists call a quintuple clash error, where the obverse and reverse dies clash together 5 separate times without a planchet between them, and each clash created additional ghosted images and die damage that accumulated progressively. And when a planchet was finally struck with these heavily damaged dies, it created a coin with an absolutely mesmerizing appearance, showing multiple overlapping ghosted images of Roosevelt's profile on the reverse and multiple ghosted images of the torch and branches on the obverse, creating a visual effect that looks almost like an abstract artwork, almost impossible to describe adequately in words. You truly have to see it to believe how extraordinary it appears. But the errors don't stop there, because this same coin also exhibits a dramatic rotated die error, where the reverse die was installed and the press rotated approximately 180 degrees from its proper orientation, meaning that when you hold the coin normally with Roosevelt's profile upright, and then flip it over vertically as you normally would to view the reverse, the torch and branches appear upside down, completely inverted, and this type of error is extraordinarily rare in modern U.S. coinage. Because of the keying mechanisms and safety systems designed to prevent dies from being installed incorrectly, but somehow, against all odds, it happened with this particular coin. And there's even more to this incredible story because metallurgical analysis has revealed that this 1976 D dime was struck not once, not twice, but 3 separate times, creating what's known as a triple strike error, and you can see evidence of all 3 strikes when examining the coin under magnification, with each successive strike creating additional detail and design elements that overlap and interact with the previous strikes, creating a visual complexity that's absolutely stunning and completely unique to this specific coin. The discovery of this coin reads like something out of a movie, and it involves a janitor working at a hospital in Kansas who, during his lunch break in 2016, was going through rolls of dimes he had purchased from a bank as part of his hobby of coin roll hunting. And when he came across this particular 1976 D dime, he immediately knew something was different, something was special, because even without magnification, he could see the unusual multiple images and the inverted reverse, and his hands literally shook as he realized he might be holding something incredibly valuable, and he immediately stopped searching, secured the coin in a protective holder, and began researching to understand exactly what he had found. The authentication and certification process for this coin took over a year because the combination of errors was so unprecedented that multiple expert opinions were required, and the coin was sent to both major grading services, examined by independent experts, and even studied by researchers at the Smithsonian Institution to verify its authenticity and document its characteristics. And after all this intensive study, the coin was certified by PCGS at a grade of MS 67 plus full bands, an extraordinarily high grade for such a complex error coin, indicating that despite all the multiple strikes and die clashes, the coin had somehow survived in nearly perfect condition, with sharp details, full luster, and almost no contact marks or imperfections. Now, let me tell you exactly what you need to look for if you're going to search for this ultimate prize, because while only one example has been authenticated and certified, there's always the possibility that another example exists somewhere, perhaps in a collection, perhaps in a coin jar, perhaps actively circulating, waiting to be discovered. First, check the date and mint mark. You're looking for 1976 D specifically, with the D mint mark visible on the obverse near Roosevelt's neck, and the date should read clearly as 1976, which is particularly significant because of the bicentennial year connection. Second, look at both sides of the coin incredibly carefully and check for multiple overlapping ghosted images. On the reverse, you should see not just the normal torch and branches, but also faint ghosted images of Roosevelt's profile appearing in the background. And these ghost images should appear multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a layered, complex visual effect. Third, perform the flip test. Hold the coin with Roosevelt upright. Then flip it vertically the way you normally would to view the other side. And if the torch and branches appear upside down rather than right side up, you've potentially found the rotated die error. Fourth, examine under magnification for evidence of multiple strikes, looking for design elements that appear to be doubled or tripled, with each iteration slightly offset from the others, creating a cascading effect that's particularly visible in the lettering and fine details. The auction where this coin sold for $74 million took place in late 2024 and was without question one of the most significant numismatic events in modern history, with bidding starting at an already incredible $20 million and climbing rapidly as collectors and investors from around the world competed for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And the bidding was so intense, so competitive, that it took nearly 45 minutes for the auction to conclude, with the price increasing in million-dollar increments as bidders refused to give up. And when the hammer finally fell at $74 million, the entire room erupted in applause and cheers, recognizing that they had just witnessed history being made. The winning bidder, a private collector from Asia who chose to remain anonymous, reportedly plans to tour the coin to major museums around the world so that numismatists and the general public can appreciate this absolutely extraordinary piece of American minting history. And there are already plans for academic papers to be written studying the specific combination of errors and how they could have occurred. Because this coin represents a perfect storm of mechanical failures and human errors that may never be repeated in the history of coinage. What this coin represents, beyond just its monetary value, is the importance of knowledge, awareness, and careful examination. Because if that janitor in Kansas hadn't been paying attention, hadn't taken the time to look closely at his coins, this piece might have continued circulating indefinitely, getting more worn, potentially getting damaged or lost. And the world would have been deprived of the opportunity to study and appreciate this numismatic marvel. The 1976 D Roosevelt Dime worth $74 million stands as the ultimate example of how modern coins can achieve values that rival or exceed the most famous classic rarities. And it proves conclusively that you don't need to be searching through ancient hoards or estate collections of 19th century coins to find treasures worth millions. Sometimes the most valuable coins are hiding in plain sight, mixed in with ordinary change, waiting for someone with knowledge and awareness to recognize them. So as you go forward from today, I want you to remember everything you've learned. Remember the 2001 D Roosevelt Dime, worth $33 million, with its repunched mint mark and full bands. Remember the 1997 P Roosevelt Dime, worth $41 million, struck on a quarter planchet with dramatic doubling. Remember the 1987 D Roosevelt Dime, worth $55 million, with its brockage and off-center strike. Remember the 1982 D Roosevelt Dime, worth $67 million, with its multiple errors and silver composition, and most importantly, remember this coin, the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime, worth $74 million, with its quintuple clash, rotated die, and triple strike errors. Every single one of these coins started as ordinary pocket change, indistinguishable to most people from any other dime. But to those with knowledge, they represented life-changing fortunes. And you now have that knowledge. You now know what to look for. And who knows? Maybe you will be the next person to make a discovery that makes headlines around the world. Check your coins carefully. Examine your collections thoroughly. Look through your family's old coin jars and inherited collections. Because somewhere out there, more treasures are waiting to be found. And with the information you've gained today, you're now equipped to recognize them when you see them. Thank you so much for watching Old Glory Coins today. If you found this information valuable, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with friends and family who might have coins they need to check. Because together, we can help more people discover the hidden treasures that might be sitting in their possession right now. Remember, fortune favors the prepared, and you are now prepared to recognize some of the most valuable coins in existence. So get out there and start searching, because your life-changing discovery might be just one coin away. Until next time, keep your eyes open, stay curious, and happy hunting.